So when I see other men or people catcalling, if I know them, I'll call them out. If I don't know them, I don't get involved and I'll explain it. I'm 5'2" and I'm very small. And like, it's not easy for me to just like step myself into a situation like that if I don't know the person. But if I do know the person, I will call them out. Like my brother's friend one time, we're in Miami and this group of women walked by and he was like, "Hey ladies," he did the whole thing. And me and my friend Michael were like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "What? They looked good. I wanted to make sure they knew that they looked good." And I was like, "Yeah, but it makes them uncomfortable. Do you understand like why that it makes them uncomfortable?" And he's like, "I don't." And I was like, "Well, this is why it makes them uncomfortable." And I really did come from a place of like, I know that you intended a good thing, but it doesn't really come off that way. And he was like, "Oh, I get that." And I was like, "A thing you can do is just like, either like approach them and be like nice and introduce yourself, or if you're at a bar, you can like get a drink for them or something much simpler than just calling out on the street." Like, and he kind of like was receptive to it, but at the same time, I think he probably turned around to his other friends and was like, this jabroni, you know what I mean, what's this dude talking about? But I think it takes that one person to just be like, yeah, like it doesn't really make people feel good to like, oh, okay, maybe it doesn't, in the brain. I think some of the ways that we can hold catcalling accountable is it really starts from a very young age. So it's like, one is like, don't teach kids to do that ever. Like, don't, if you're a parent, don't teach your kids to do that. It's not great. And then as educators, like as teachers, like teachers should be like really reinforcing that behavior, like good behavior to kids in school. Like if you learn it in school, like there's things I've learned in school that are like not education. It's just like simple things of like, this is such a weird example, but like I had an elementary school teacher that was like, "Do you leave the sink on when you brush your teeth or do you waste all that water?" And that really has stuck with me since I was 6. You know what I mean? Like that stuck with me. And every time I leave the bathroom sink on while I'm brushing my teeth, I'm like, "Oh no, I'm using so much water. I'm wasting water." And Miss Jiraki would be so pissed at me right now. But if there are educators and teachers that are like really explaining these things to in really interesting ways to kids that really can stick, I think that like it starts like right there from the bat. But like as adults, like what we can do is do exactly that. Hold your friends accountable. If you see it happen, just call it out. And the thing is, like accountability, there's so much nuance to it because on both sides of like, because you have to understand that like when people are doing that, that's a learned behavior that they think is normal. And so when you approach them, you have to approach them from like a little bit of on their turf, unfortunately, because if you don't, they're going to go on the offense and they're going to feel attacked. And so you have to be like, okay, well, listen, I understand that like you think this is cool. And I think that like, it's great that you are expressing that, but these are other ways that you can express that may be more healthy and make other people feel good. So it's like, yeah, I mean, it is hard to be like, yeah, you need to kind of like talk down or like, meet the person at their level, even though they're doing something wrong. But like, unfortunately with accountability, I think like that's really important to do that because I think it brings people into your world and into your circle as opposed to like, I don't know, going on the offense or going on the defense right away and pushing those people away. So I definitely I've experienced catcalling and I've experienced harassment in my own life. Like, what's interesting is like, as a gay man, I experienced harassment from gay people in gay bars or at the Pride Parade of like people touching my butt or touching my body. And it's like very inappropriate. And it happened one time I was with my friend and she was like, "Did he just touch your ass?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "Did you want that?" And I was like, "No." And she was like, "But so why didn't you say something?" And I was like, "Because I didn't know that I didn't really want that in my life right now." And so, but she was like, "Yeah, but," and she was like, "Does that happen a lot?" And I was like, "Kinda." And she was like, "That's not cool." And I was like, "Oh, good to know." You know what I mean? Like, that is so not cool. So I definitely I definitely have experienced catcalling in New York City a lot. I mean, you see it all the time. You kind of have like become so numb. I mean, I've become a little like, when your headphones are in, don't talk to me. Like I cannot, but people that really talk to people with headphones on are so dumb, in my opinion, because I'm like, what do you think is going on in these earbuds? That is apparently that your voice cuts through them and I can hear you. I can't, buddy. But I have definitely experienced catcalling. My hot take about catcalling, I have to say, is that it does come from a good place at the end of the day, unfortunately. Like it's one of those things where like the intention is good. Like the intention I've always seen is like, oh, I just want to make this person feel good and I want to compliment them. And then the execution and the continuation of that execution is where it all goes wrong. And it's very problematic for me. Like, for example, my brother one time, like catcalled and I called him out on it. I was like, why are you doing that? You shouldn't do that. It's inappropriate. And he was like, what? I just wanted to make sure these ladies knew they were hot today. And I was like, okay, but like, that's not the way to do it. One of my first experiences with gender norms, and because she's so popular right now, I'll say is Britney Spears. I like loved Britney Spears when I was a little kid. I would do all that choreography, and that was something as an 8-year-old kid in like, or 7-year-old kid in 1999 and 2000. The gender norms were this: if you were a boy, you liked boy music. If you were a girl, you liked girl music, and that's it. And there is like very specific paths you can take in terms of that. And I always thought it was such trash. I was like, why? Some people find a female voice more appealing. Some people find a male voice more appealing to listen to. I never understood it, but I loved Britney Spears. And that was something that gave so many people, I guess, like an opportunity to make fun of me for. And I was like, I don't understand this. And I got a lot of flack for it as a little kid. And I just felt like it was always so unwarranted. So I definitely do think there is a slight difference when it comes to catcalling between straight people and gay people, especially gay men. Like, for example, like I mentioned like that I got groped at the Pride Parade and I didn't even think about it because it's like in that space you just think like, oh, the dude's just trying to hit on me, as opposed to like, oh, that's an unwanted advance on my body, you know? And I think that some things are just a little more normal when it comes to gay men. We're a little more open. We're a little more like, let's get to the point. We're men, so like whatever. And I think that like I think the same rules apply, honestly. Like if you're a gay man, don't catcall, don't harass, don't touch, don't say things that are inappropriate, and like don't make people feel uncomfortable. I think that like there are slight differences, but there shouldn't be slight differences. I definitely think that like in terms of gender, like that should be, and in terms of sexuality, like those things should be equal, and it's like unacceptable on both parties. And like, yeah, it might be more normalized in one, but like I say screw that, like don't treat people like that. Like, for example, like I one time was walking down the street and like it's also like sometimes women will catcall gay men, and that's like really inappropriate too. I've gotten that a lot. Like if I'm wearing like a cute little outfit and I'm walking down the street, I'll get women be like, rah, and I'm like, oh, okay, like that's not, I don't need that either, you know? Or you get people just on the street, if you're a gay man, just saying like incredibly rude things. Like I was walking down the street one time and this homeless guy was like, do you have $1? And I was like, I'm sorry, no. And then he goes, faggot. And I was like, oh, like you're definitely not getting $1 from me now, buddy. I hate to break it to you. But like things like that, that I just feel like, I don't know, especially because of my stature, I think that people, because I am small, people feel like they can just do or say, especially at, you know, at concerts or whatever, I just get pushed around. I'm always just like in a club, I'm always just like unwantedly just roaming around because people are pushing me. And I find it very like, I don't know, I think it's like, it's about the way you grow up in a way. And it's about like, oh, I can do that because I'm bigger than that person. And it's like, hey, maybe just like take a second and realize that like you're not the center of the universe, like other people are around and like they have the same feelings that you do.